Right, from security back to governance and politics. Jeffrey.
So let's get back to the issue of party politics, or national politics, that's how I should put it. Let's bring in our guest, Senator Shehu. Sani represented Kaduna Central in the Senate. Distinguished, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
I'm very certain you have watched the drama that has played out in the National Assembly over the issue of a provisor put in by your colleagues in the Senate to provide for manual transfer or transmission this time, as against the position of the House. Now that harmonization has happened and is now an act of Parliament that there's a provisor. Of course, there was a row this session, especially in the House, where there was those walkouts and calling of names and all of that. Give us your own interpretation of what you feel has played out so far.
Yeah, I think the problem simply has to do with lack of proper communication between the National Assembly and the general public being Nigerians, with regards to what is being done at the National Assembly at a certain stage. Each time you have a new bill or an alteration of a bill, there is the need for the public to be present when it comes to the public hearing. Most times on bills that affects the life, future, the stability and unity of this country, or the integrity of our democracy, demands public participation, and that's why the ingredient of public hearing comes in. Well, the fact is that what the public understand is that the National Assembly is opposed to electronic transmission of result. But what is reality in the National Assembly, or what is really in the National Assembly, is that the primary source of transmission of result is the electronic. And then in the event the electronic fails, you have the manual. So the manual is like a spare tire where the first one failed. And I don't see anything wrong with that. But because a typical protester, when you interview him on the street, is simply saying that National Assembly is opposed to electronic transfer of result, or transmission of result. But it is also to be noted for anyone who is in depth in politics that electronic transfer does not mean that we're going to have 100% free and fair election. There is no electoral system to which those who intend to rig will not be able to circumvent. Now, you have a manual voting and then electronic transfer of result. So every way you go, if the nation is interested in organizing a free, fair, and credible election, it will hold. And if there is the intent and the practice of manipulation, and whatever you do, they will find a way to which they will go over it. For example, now, you can have laws everywhere that says that people should, the voters should not be induced with money or anything material for them to vote, but they will still do that. And we don't have the manpower, we don't have that sophistication to go to every nook and cranny to make sure people are not being induced. So if we are interested in the election to take place, and that does not mean that when we have electronic transfer of result that there will be no manipulation. So it all depends on what we want to do in the country with our electoral system.
So the argument here is to the effect that around the issue around the provisor, because we know electronic, when it comes to the beavers, you accredit electronically, it's offline. You vote manually with all the process, getting to the polling booths, casting your vote, dropping it in the ballot box. All that is manual. Then the transmission has two parts to it, which has to do with, first has to do with the capture of that particular document or scan or photograph, whatever name is used. Now, what requires internet connectivity is just the upload, which the INEC chairman and even the document that guides them clearly shows that It can't be roving until there's internet connectivity, which is why people are saying leave it as it is. Even INEC guideline leaves it as it is. Why are you adding a proviso? The fear that the APC is afraid of a free and fair election. That's where I'm going to with my question. Now you're in the APC. You've been in PDP, APC, PLP, and now back to the APC. Is the APC concerned about its ability to pull off victory in this election?
Well, as a ruling party, just like a defending champion, you do everything you can within the ambit of the law, in the system, to protect your gains and also to advance from the territory you are able to control. So, and for those in the opposition, they will do everything they can themselves to make sure that they snatch seats and win and defeat the ruling party. So in both sides, both sides have to do everything possible, protect their own interests, and that interest happens during elections. To me, I don't see anything wrong with saying that we should electronically transfer, and where there is a glitch or there are issues, then we go manual, in the sense that people have made a lot of references that we can use this, we can use that, but they have to understand that election takes place in one day, and it's expected that the result will be transmitted the same day. So if there is no provision for an alternative, what becomes of it? Do we wait for the next day, 2 days, 3 days, and then we continue to drag on? But I think we should do what is practicable, in the sense that if it's difficult for even the most advanced and technologically advanced nations to electronically transfer all their results, why do we want to force that on ourselves to that level? But I think the central point is that we say that there should be electronic transfer of result. And where there is a glitch or there is a failure, we go to the manual. And I think that there should not be something wrong with that. But you see, there is this intention, there is this belief, perspective, that all that is done is that everyone will go manual. And it's just like primary elections as we have them in court. You said you can do direct primaries where the public can vote, and you can do the delegate system. And then people and politicians prefer the delegate system, while the people prefer the direct primaries. So there should be alternative where one fails, and I think that should be the message that should be clear in the conscience of Nigerians.
And I think, again, it's very curious, because our collation is manual. We collate with Form EC8A. We don't use what is on the IREV for collation. What is used from the IREV, which is what is electronically transmitted, is just for viewing, so Nigerians can see and then they can compare and say, oh, what did we use at the World Collation Center? What did Form EC8A say? What did IREV say? Right. So when we say resort to manual transmission to IREV, I don't know, it doesn't quite make sense. We know that whatever the case is, our election is manual. Collation, voting, collation, and all of that, it is manual. There is no electronic transmission that aids our collation in that sense. We still use the physical, Form EC8A, and eventually we use the EC8B and the rest all the way up. So it's, again, I find it really curious to see that proviso. And that's not to say that we can have technological glitches and the rest. But the law already provides that our election collation is manual. So I want to ask, from a view of the ruling party, because again, we understand these things. Nobody wants to willfully give a rule that will make you lose election. Come on, you have to protect your interests, protect your base. So is the ruling party scared that if we leave this at just electronic transmission, our hands are tied and we may lose this coming election?
Well, you see, if you look at the configuration in the National Assembly, that is in the Senate and the House of Reps, you will see the over-domineering presence of the ruling party. If they wanted, and if it goes by vote, everything will go the way of the ruling party, in the sense that they have the two-third majority and they can decide in what is called, let's go for a division, let's go for votes. And if everything the ruling party wanted is put before the both chambers of the House, they can get through with it. But for the fact that gains have been made based on public objections and public protests on this issue of transmission, both electronic and manual, I think that should be sustained. Not to the point of pushing to such a way that the ruling party gets everything that it wanted, and which may not be in the interest for Nigerians. So where is the law made? Law is made in the National Assembly. And I think this should be a lesson to Nigerians. Many Nigerians, when it comes to elections, are only interested in who becomes the president and who becomes the governor of a state. Not much interest is focused on who become the senator, who become the members of House of Reps, until after you finish electing your president and the governor. And at the end of the day, the public will find out that their lives, their future, their security, and the integrity of the democratic system is all dependent on the quality of the people that they elected into office. So they don't remember and they don't remember reps-bearing elections. It's all about the executive power. And this should be a lesson for the next elections, that people that should be elected to the parliament will be of the same scale, major, moral standing, like the way people use it for those who are going to be at the executive level. So that is very important.
Senator, a lot of people know your antecedents, how you fought for democracy as an activist, and they see you supporting, well, the manual transmission proviso. For those who may be thinking, well, this is not the Senator Shehu Sani we know, in the sense that they feel that you are against democracy in that sense. What do you have to say to them? Because for a lot of the activists now who are protesting at the National Assembly, the same way you protested at some point, they think that electronic transmission is a way to go. Any other thing is just trying to rig the election. So do you see yourself in their shoes right now? Is that something you want to tell them, activist to activist?
Well, first of all, I am not someone who is opposed to electronic transmission of result. I 100% believe in it. But what I said is that in the case there are issues with that, we should have an alternative in that very sense. And being an activist, I'm also a politician. And I know that there are realities that happen in politics which you don't see them in activism. For example, you have a ruling party and you have an opposition party. To me, as a politician, I don't see any much difference between the way the ruling parties process its politics and the way the opposition, because this is very clear. First of all, if you have to, the process where people win primary election in the ruling party is still the same process where people have to win elections in the opposition party. For you to be an executive of the ruling party, you have to be a candidate of someone, the same thing with the opposition party. For you to win the primary elections, the fear in the ruling party is the use of money. The fear in the opposition party is also the use of money. And let us be very clear. The elements you see in the opposition today were part and parcel of the ruling party. If you're looking for Nigerians who destroyed this country from 99 to 2015, they are in the opposition. You are looking for those who destroyed Nigeria from 15 to 23, they are in the opposition. If you're looking for those who participated in the first and second semester of destruction of this country, they are all in the opposition. So it's not that in Nigeria you have the way you have it in the Western world, where you have a party that is left, right, center, right. Oh, this one is communist, this one is socialist, this one is capitalist.
But Senator, are they not in the ruling party as well? Are they not in the ruling party as well, Senator Sani?
Who?
Those who destroyed
the
during the
party?
first semester and second semester, aren't they in the ruling party?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that it is expected that the alternative should be of a moral higher ground than those in the ruling party. So, but to me, I have seen them. You can all be anywhere. This is not a situation where you have any ideological or philosophical difference between those in the ruling party and those in the opposition. Those in the ruling party are for IMF, for World Bank, for neoliberal economic policy. Those in the opposition are also the same. So it's not that here you have a Marxist-Leninist and then you have a capitalist, or you have a liberal Democrat and the other one is Republican. It is not the case. Any person can fit into both sides and nothing else. And so when you say the opposition, I don't see any opposition in terms of any difference in the philosophy, the ideology, or political thoughts. So to me, they are all the same. And the activists you're talking about are demanding for electronic transmission of results. I 100%. And I can participate in the protest for that. But what I'm saying is that I have been in politics. I contest election, I lost, and I contest election, I won. And I have been through the system, and I know how it works. So we shouldn't cage ourselves to the point that we don't have a way out when it comes to it. So protest is good. They should continue to protest. If you don't have protest, people in government will always have their way in everything. And my experience in National Assembly is that if the public doesn't respond in terms of protest and resisting issues which they feel strongly about, the people in the National Assembly will get over whatever they want. And for example, when I was there was a bill against on registration of NGOs, on the social media restriction and all that. It is the public from the outside that challenged that attempt to restrict the rights of Nigerians to freely express themselves, and it worked. So people should protest peacefully. That is the element of democracy. But to me, I stand that we should conduct our elections free, fair, and credibly, to the point that the world will see us as a genuine democracy. For example, now, what's happening in the world? Nobody is interested in elections in Africa. Can you now look at Donald Trump and say he's an example of democracy? They too, they have no respect for rule of law. They have no respect for court orders. They have also, they threaten even their members of National Assembly.
All right, distinguished.
In fact, so to us, it's left for us to do the right thing as a country, because even those nations that are advanced in democracy are no more interested in whatever we do here.
Yeah, distinguished. Let's go to other conversation. You know, all of us are stakeholders, politicians, journalists, CSOs, and even the Nigerian citizens. And we know that collation is manual. Transmission is just to compare what has happened at the collation center, to compare what has happened at the polling unit, so that the shenanigans we know that happens at collation center, it reduces. That doesn't mean there will not be rigging. So perhaps the argument is, if you can't rig before that result is uploaded, that's your business, for those who have a penchant for always rigging election. So that's why the provisor is a bit funny, because INEC even conducted that election, 2023, with the guidelines of what was being proposed initially, and we saw how that election went. So that's why we say there's nothing that's happening in 2027 that will not that had not happened in 2023. So why provide a provisor that can give leeway to all kinds of shenanigans? But let's talk about national security. The boots are on ground. The 100 soldiers now. The official statement says they are here for training and equipment. What's your expectation? Because we need to have an expectation. There's no free meal living in Freetown. What's your expectation of this relationship? Because there has been the back and forth of the diplomatic role, and you know how that eventually panned out. Now there's this relationship. Whether it's a necessary or forced relationship, we do not know. But we're happy for whatever it is that will help us to make sure that our people are being stop being killed like chickens and animals in that sense. What's your take?
Well, first of all, I must remind the viewers that I come from a state that has suffered under the attacks of bandits and terrorists in the last 1.5 decades. So speaking, I believe that I'm not going to simply talk based on what I read on newspapers, or what somebody says, or simply a perspective. I am going to talk as someone who comes from the state that is at the center of this violence, this conflict, these terror attacks. That's one. Secondly, I have read some of my friends, some of my comrades, that they have written an open letter opposed to U.S. military presence in Nigeria, and on the ground that our sovereignty is violated and there are other motives and intents with this presence of the U.S. military. Well, to me, we have suffered enough as a people and as a country, in the sense that this is almost dragging up to 2 decades when terrorists have started their violence and bloodshed in our own part of the country and have killed hundreds of thousands of people. It started from the northeast with Boko Haram, then you have ISWAP, then you have Ansaru, then you have Darus Islam, and then it comes to the northwest, you have bandits, then you have Mahmudawa, Lakurawa, and all this nonsense of terrorists killing our people. Now, we cannot say as a nation that we have to fold our arms or close our doors against support from other nations. No military in the whole world today can operate without the support of militaries or army of other nations. United States has moved its own aircraft carrier to the Gulf today, but it is banking on support from its Gulf allies, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Israel, and other nations around that region for it to achieve its objective. Russia is in Ukraine. Is working in tandem with Ukraine, with North Korea, yes, and Iran. Nigeria, we need the presence of military, U.S. military troops to help in intelligence sharing, to partner with our army, for us to be able to crush and annihilate these bandits and terrorists.
All right, distinguished. My apologies, we're totally out of time, but I think your point is well noted. It's an ongoing conversation. Our eyes and our ears are watching what will play out, but we're totally out of time. But we must thank you so much. It's not my intention to cut your thoughts, but because of time. Distinguished Senator Shehu Sani represented Kaduna Central in the National Assembly in the Senate. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for